Okay, so you just downloaded DOSBox, you got a couple DOS games on your hard drive, you go to run DOSBox, and all you see staring at you is a blinking cursor and some strange symbols. Have no fear, that blinking cursor is simply the command prompt, and all it's doing is waiting for you to tell it what to do. You can type in things like run my game or let me point and click stuff, but DOSBox isn't exactly going to understand you. In fact, command prompts were part of what kept computers out of the hands of the average person, since it could be pretty intimidating having to learn what you can type in that will actually work. Really though, the learning curve is surprisingly small, so let's get started with some basics. Every computer nowadays is organized into drives and folders, though the original terminology was drives and directories. Every drive on a PC has a letter assigned to it and is followed by a colon, usually referred to as a prompt, such as C prompt, D prompt, F prompt, or in DOSBox's case it has a special drive inside it called Z prompt. Almost every system has a C prompt, and it's almost always the main hard drive. To change drives, all you do is type it in. However, when you try to type in C prompt, DOSBox says it doesn't exist. Well, for a variety of reasons, DOSBox actually keeps its own ideas of drives and directories, contrary to the way your system is set up. So what you want to do is mount a folder on your system as a drive in DOSBox. For example, my copy of XARGON is stored on my C drive in the XARGON folder, which is actually also off of my DOS files folder. So if I wanted to mount that folder as DOSBox's C drive, I'd simply type in mount C $DOSFiles\XARGON. Now if I type in C prompt, DOSBox will bring me there, but instead of it being my real C drive, it's actually the XARGON folder. It might sound confusing at first, but the more you do this, the more sense it'll make. There's also a special command called image mount, which is used to mount floppy disk image files and CD image files, rather than folders. You can also mount actual floppy drives as CD drives, but creating image files is usually more reliable and much faster in terms of loading times. Once you've both mounted a folder as a drive and switched to it, you can run any file in it simply by typing it in. But what file do we actually run? Well, you can see a list of every file in the directory by typing dir. Whoa, too many files. Let's narrow this down a little. All files you can run end with one of three extensions, .exe, .com, and .bat, which are executable, command, and batch files, respectively. Another thing to keep in mind is that the asterisk character, which is a star on the A key, is considered a wildcard in both DOS and Windows. That allows us to be less specific when we're dealing with files and directories. Since we want to list all files that end with .exe, we just type in dir star.exe. It actually wasn't much help. There doesn't seem to be any one specific executable that looks like it runs the game. Star.com, perhaps? Okay, that didn't work. But what about star.bat? Okay, there we go. There's a file called XARGON.BAT, and since that's the name of the game, that's almost certainly the file we need to run. So all we do is type in XARGON. We don't need to type the file extension, but you can if you want to. And there we go. So it makes sense, right? I mean, you mount a folder as a drive letter with the mount command, you can add a list of all files or specific files with the dir command, and you can change drives and run programs simply by typing in drive letters and program file names. I'd say it's not rocket science, it just takes a little practice. There's a few more commands you should be aware of, especially for dealing with directories. First, let's mount my copy of terminal velocity as DOSBox's D drive by typing in mount D C:\DOSFiles\TV. Then we simply go there by typing in D prompt. This directory actually has another directory inside it called TVI. To go to this directory, we use a special command called cd, which stands for change directory. So all we do is type in cd\TVI, and there we go. Now we're in the TVI directory. We could have also gotten here by typing cd space TVI. Using a space means to look for the directory we want from the current directory, whereas using a backslash means to look from the root of the drive letter. There's also an md command to make directories and an rd command to remove directories. But don't worry about accidentally removing directories, because rd doesn't work on directories that aren't empty. If you want to go back to the root folder, you simply type in cd backslash, and if you want to go back just one directory, not necessarily to the root, you type in cd ... This is stuff you'll probably never have to worry about, but it's good to know about. Two other commands you likely won't use much are copy and del, which of course copy files and delete files. One neat thing is that if you get stuck, some of the commands in DOSBox and even some of the games will allow you to learn more about them by typing in /? After the name of the command, or sometimes hyphen ?. So if you want to learn more about, say, the mount command, you just type in mount /? Granted, that one doesn't really tell you much. Some things are more descriptive than others. There's a few more interesting commands to take note of. For example, mixer is a special command for altering the individual volume levels of the various sound devices DOSBox supports. Typing mixer on its own simply shows us all the present mixer volume levels. Typing in mixer, a sound type, and two numbers separated by a colon will change that sound type's left and right volume levels. Boot is another special command which can boot floppy disk image files that come from old bootloader games, such as Raster Scan and F-15 Strike Eagle. Also, if you plan to do any networked gaming with DOSBox, you'll almost certainly need to learn how the IPXNet command works, and it's got a bit to it, so it's best if you actually read the DOSBox documentation regarding that one. Finally, if you ever want to quit DOSBox immediately, you can just press Ctrl F9, but you can also do it from the command prompt by simply typing exit, which is useful when creating custom configuration files because in the auto-exec section, you can mount your game folder, switch to the drive, run the game, and exit without ever having to touch the command prompt. Now, if you found any of the information I've given you hard to follow, or at any point in time you just need a quick refresher, just type intro and hit enter when in DOSBox and it will show you several pages of text to give you a quick overview of syntax, commands, and keyboard shortcuts. One last thing I should mention, since blank spaces have a special meaning in DOS, it's good to keep them out of any folder names or file names that have anything to do with your DOS software. However, both DOSBox and Windows will allow you to get around this technicality by enclosing such names in quotes. So let's say if for some obscure reason you wanted to mount your program files folder, you'd do something like mount e quote c:\program files end quote. Without the quotes, the space between program and files would completely throw off the command and it wouldn't work. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the DOSBox command prompt. I hope all of you had a good holiday season, but now that we've got a new year started, it's time to dish out more episodes of ancient DOS games, starting with episode 30 next Saturday, where we're going to take an in-depth look at a genre-defying game where you take control of a CIA agent trying to arrest 26 criminal masterminds over the course of their career. If you know what game that is, then send your guess to adg@pixelships.com and make sure to tune in next Saturday because you're going to get to see a lot more than just a simple game review.